Hey, are you or someone you care about considering, dealing with, or being through a divorce or separation? Well, you're in the right place. You don't have to do this alone. There are people who care and want to help. Hi, I'm Deena Kordt, an author, blogger, publisher, and empowerment coach. Thanks for joining me on the Divorce Magazine Canada podcast. You are going to hear from our team of experts and professionals how to navigate this difficult transition in your life easier, more efficiently, and with better outcomes. Did you know we host online divorce resource groups that are free to attend and everyone is welcome? Check out the links in our show notes and be sure and join us. We love bringing experts to you. Please refer to our terms of service available on our website, divorcemagazinecanada.com, and stay tuned at the end for the legal language. Ready? Here we go. My guest today is joining us all the way from the state of New York. I was privileged to be on her podcast in December. Let's Break the Silence with Angeline is a movement that she has started as a triumphant survivor of domestic abuse and helping to support women and support others in knowing that they aren't alone. Now, if you're interested to hear more about my own personal story, the link is in the show notes for that interview. Now let's meet Angeline and see what she has to tell us about her experiences and where she's headed. I am absolutely thrilled to have Angeline on my show today. Angeline Mitchell is someone who very generously invited me to join her on her podcast and speak about our experiences with domestic abuse, domestic violence, and where we are today compared to where we have been in the past. Angeline, I am just so excited to have you on my show now so that the people in my audience can meet you. I have just become so inspired by you and what you have done and where you have come from and what you are doing to help other people. Please tell us more about yourself and what your why is. And what has happened because of your why.
Exactly. Okay, so thank you so much, Deena, for having me as a guest on your show. And I'm very, very happy, feel very happy and blessed. So my name is Angeline Constantino. I'm very happy and blessed to be here. So I am an empowerment coach, life coach, and podcaster of Let's Break the Silence with Angeline. So my podcast started during the time right before COVID. So let me share a little bit of a backstory. So about 15 years ago, I was in a very dark place. I found myself in a very dark place. I had lost my corporate job at that time. I had lost my sense of self-worth, my bank account. My ex drained my bank account to almost nothing. I had to open up another bank account so I could provide for myself because I had worked with him in his business, which was advertising and sales in New York City. So there was financial abuse, there was verbal abuse, there was physical abuse. And I just woke up one morning, and then this was 15 years ago. I think it was around this time in May. I just woke up one morning and I said, I am no longer going to be the victim. I am not going to be playing the victim anymore, because about 10 years prior, an unfortunate event happened in December of 1999. So I was literally like lying in bed, and he was screaming at me. He was saying all kinds of bad things about me and really heaping verbal abuse. And I didn't want to listen to it anymore. I was, feeling really stressed and overwhelmed and just crying my eyes out. So I said, you know what? Let me just go into the other room. We had a 4-bedroom cape in Rhinebeck, New York. So I didn't make it into the guest room. when I got up, I heard footsteps and he grabbed me he grabbed me by the neck, like right here, and he threw me against the wall right next to the bathroom, and I fell backwards. And I had a broken nose. I was all bruised up. And I remember lying there and I was like, am I going to live tonight or am I going to die? And I thought that literally I was going to die that night. But the good Lord, I just, looked up in the skies and looked up at the ceiling, looked to God, and I said, I don't want to die. I don't deserve this. So it was worse. So um, he took me to the emergency room, which is not unusual in that situation. So he took me to the emergency room. I was on IV all night up until about 5 o'clock in the morning. And the surgeon came out and said that I needed reconstructive nose surgery.
Wow.
And I felt like I reached the bottom of the pit, but I didn't have the courage to tell the police at that time. I didn't have the courage because I felt, I felt ashamed. And I understand, what victims go through. I totally understand what victims go through. They don't know what to do. And there's not a day that goes by that I read something on Facebook in a private group where some girl heard she got hurt and she just doesn't know what to do. She wants to break the silence, but she's afraid. It's because of fear. It's because they feel that the police will side with the abuser and actually not believe the victim. And I've heard, a lot of stories. So make a long story short, so 8 years later, um, like I had the surgery 2 days later, and I had to stay overnight because they gave me an overdose of Demerol. So I went home the next day and I was covered up in a bandage for about a week. And it took me about a month to heal. So I was healing. And then what I decided to do was I decided not to work with him anymore and go out in corporate America to make a name for myself. I didn't know anything about the online space at that time. So I just went out to work in corporate America so I could make a name for myself and have other friends. And he resented that. Like there was a lot of resentment and anger that was built up even more. So I remember the first time I called the police, it wasn't very pretty. And the police actually helped me put the suitcase in the car so I could go to a motel and get get some sleep so I could, get some rest. But I was the one who had to leave. So, because it was just ugly. And I remember what had happened before, like in
Right.
1999. So I was like, I don't want to get hit again. And he didn't hit me, actually. He was actually yelling and screaming. And um, he slandered me. He wrote letters to the New York State Police and basically vilifying me. So finally, the police came to my defense. I had filed a protective order against him, and it was a limited protective order. I was actually looking for a safe place to stay, but so I stayed at my uncle's house for a couple of weeks so I could decompress and then make a plan. So I made a plan that I was going to file for divorce, and the police, the sheriff's office, and the New York State Police knew exactly where I was because I told them where I was going. But when I came back, they told the protective order was served. But I remember when I got a call from the sheriff's office, they said, before you go home, we want to talk to you. I said, okay. So I'm like, all right, here goes. So they made it a point to say not to rescind the protective order because if like okay for me I didn't rescind the protective order because they warned me that he was going to try to play up to me and say I'm sorry and apologize and all this stuff.
Right.
uh, and so I said okay, and I wised up, so they just prepped me. So I'm glad that they prepped me, because when I went home, he was apologizing and, oh no, we'll work things out. But no, that didn't happen. So I went for it, and I paid my attorney a retainer fee out of my own bank account, um, to start the divorce proceedings. And fortunately, we did not have children. So during that time, I start, what I would do is, like, during that time, I was on a path of rediscovery. And the minute that I took ownership and said that, I'm filing for divorce, because I know that I can live on my own. I had that mindset that I could live on my own. Yeah, maybe start my own business, or maybe just go work for someone else and, work a part-time job or something. But that's when I started to explore the online space. And I got involved in network marketing at the time, with a health and wellness company that I was very super passionate about. And I worked behind the scenes. There was no thought of starting a podcast. I just wanted to, so I to get myself on that growth, on that personal growth of rediscovery. So I invested in myself and personal development. Um, I was on team calls, and I was working my business behind the scenes, either at the public library or, in someone's house, because I was basically living like a gypsy for 1 year. So I
Oh
was
my
staying in
goodness.
people's homes. I was staying in motel rooms. I mean, it was just like this was my life for 1 year. Like, I hardly was ever home, because I moved all my stuff upstairs, and I felt uncomfortable staying there half the time. So one of my friends actually paid, for me to stay in a, safe place, in a motel room. And at that time, I had an advocate, a domestic violence. I had a caseworker on, working on my case. So I was very grateful for that. I didn't seek shelter. I tried to, but I just there was nothing available. So I said, I'm just gonna stay on this path, and just so God helped me through that huge storm, because we had to go to court several times. It was very, very frustrating, because I felt we were going nowhere, and I was paying, I had to borrow money from my parents for some of the legal fees, because they were, supporting me to be free. But then a year later, it was actually around this time, on May 11th, I drove down to Poughkeepsie, New York. I had moved to Saratoga Springs. So I made a 1 year plan, executed that plan, and then I moved, not in this apartment, but on the other side of town. I moved to Saratoga Springs, and I got a small 1 bedroom apartment that was very safe and comfortable for me. So, and then 2 weeks later, I drove down to Poughkeepsie, New York, and signed the divorce papers. We settled finally, thank goodness. And then the same day that I signed my divorce papers was the same day that they have rank advancements in companies. So I rank advanced that same day. And that was like a huge turning point in my life, a breakthrough. And I was starting to travel again, go because I was traveling in sales in the past. So I was starting to travel again, meeting new people, making new connections, and making new friends, because I'm not afraid to, put myself out there. So that's the essence of my story. So fast forward to, okay, I was still afraid to share my story, though. I didn't share my entire story with the world. So I hired a mentor, and I invested some money, some of my own money, into this, to my mentor. And I still, I talk to him, I keep in touch with him. So there were some limiting beliefs that I had to, he helped me peel off the layers. Okay, peel off the layers. And he said, Angeline, how come you haven't shared your story on social media? And I was like, because I'm afraid to go live. He goes, really? Okay. So he trained you up. Not like a Zoom call. He meant, You take your
Live.
phone and you go live. So I went live in March of 2018 on my Facebook page. I was a nervous wreck. Even though I dressed up, put makeup on, I was still a nervous wreck. And because I was a nervous wreck and shared my story, I was so real, raw, and vulnerable that it went viral. And I think there were about 7 million views.
Whoa, that is some serious viral.
Serious viral, no kidding, because people were, Facebook just pushed it out.
That's
So
incredible, the reach.
yeah, so people from all over the world shared my story, and I was literally I was crying. I was like, okay, so now that I've shared my story, now what do I do? Because
Right.
I was doing affiliate marketing, and I said, you know what? I said, I've always had a passion for helping women amplify their voice and find their voice, helping domestic abuse survivors. So I started my podcast right before COVID. It was in January of 2020, and then 2 months later, COVID hit, and then there was a rampant increase in domestic violence because nothing was open, and in New York, everything shut down, including the agencies. So there was no place for women to go. Yet I was able to bring on special guests. I shared my story on my podcast, which is Let's Break the Silence with Angeline. And I also brought in guests who had gone through something similar, because I went through a lot of trauma. There was a lot of trauma. And, so once I shared my story, I felt a huge breakthrough had happened. And I started to, I was able to open up a lot of doors. And because when you share your story and you're vulnerable, breakthroughs happen and the world of abundance opens up, and that's opened up. And that's exactly what happened to me. So I invested. I mean, a podcast doesn't cost anything to start. You can just go, so I was on YouTube studying and, watching videos on how to start a podcast. And now, fast forward to today, I've had a lot of special guests, but I'm also doing a lot of solo episodes now, sharing, how to heal from trauma. I talk about self-love. I talk about how you can reclaim your power back, because if I can do it, they can do it too. They just need the resources. So, and also, to make an investment in themselves. And I know that that's not easy, because there's been a lack of funding on, and there was a video that a friend of mine shared with me today. So the New York State Coalition Against Domestic Violence, they were at the Capitol today in Albany. I live 30 minutes north of Albany, New York. So there was a speech, legislatures advocating more funding for domestic abuse survivors, resources, so they can work a full-time job, because the majority of them do have children. So I didn't have children, so I had absolutely no contact with my ex right after I left and escaped domestic abuse. So the resources are very important, for victims to tap into. So I'm glad that there's a movement going on up here, to break the silence, and I'll be contacting them. But more importantly, the vision of my podcast is what still is to have women share their real life stories, because I have coaches, I have, podcasters, I have, women who are thriving after domestic abuse. They're either authors, speakers, they're coaches, they're working online in the online space, but they've overcome domestic abuse, and they had to break that stigma. They had to break that victimhood, because what's the sense of staying in victimhood? I mean, I read sometimes of women who are going to go and curl up on the couch or curl up in bed. That's not the answer. Nothing grows from your comfort zone.
Well, I think it's really encouraging that there are people that you have found who are ready to tell that story. And I want to speak to that couch, because we also need some couch time sometimes, or we just need some time to just process, right? But don't get stuck there. Just don't get stuck there. And I think that's what we want to encourage. There's a lot of shame. You mentioned that, and guilt, and a shocking realization that what we were living in was abuse. There's so many levels to this. And I really find that many of us who've been there, we then want to escape just like everybody else. It's like, I just want out. I just want to never think of this again, never look at it again. But we are reminded that that actually isn't legitimately breaking that victimhood that you're speaking of. That is just ignoring it. And there's a lot of powerful healing that comes from sharing your story and breaking the silence. Even if you don't do it as an author or a podcaster in the ways that you and I are doing it, but share your story. It's somebody who shared their story with me that, as a friend, just saying, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what I've seen and what's been happening to me, that helped me then identify the abuse that I was in. And so it can be in that way, to share, to confide in someone, to heal that way, because you then can move beyond it.
Right. You can move beyond it. The first thing that you need to do is to take ownership. And it's a mindset shift. There's a lot of I had to work on my mindset, because breaking out of that fear is false evidence appearing real. So I broke through the fear, and I turned to God for guidance. I really did. Even, my pastor at the time helped me through a difficult time, because no woman should suffer in silence.
I wanted to just pop in here for just a minute and let you know that if you're relating to anything that we're talking about here, whether it's yourself personally or someone that you care about, that you are concerned about, or you'd like to be more supportive for them and understand how to do so, there are some divorce resource groups, some support groups, some women's support groups that we have on Meetup, where you can get together with others and understand that you aren't alone, whether you are a support person or somebody that has been there and is trying to heal from it. These are free, they're online, and they are very easily accessible on Meetup. The links are in the show notes. And the one in particular I'm thinking about is the one called Hope in Hell. And it is available for women to support each other. And we don't get down in the weeds about what happened and where we've been, but we really offer an encouragement from where are you now and where would you like to go, and how can we support you and help you, whether you need it or you would like to be a support to others. All those links will be in the show notes. Now let's get back to our conversation with Angeline.
Curling up on the couch and just going to bed and just shutting. I mean, look, I've done that too. Trust me. I didn't want to there were times where I didn't want to get up out of bed, but I said, you know what? it's time, girl. You gotta saddle up.
Yeah.
You gotta saddle up. And that's what I said to myself. Just saddle up and just make a life for yourself, because life is meant to be lived. You're meant to live a long life, not a short life. You're meant to live the abundant life that you truly deserve to live. So when you open yourself up and you're vulnerable, like I learned from my mentor, and share your story, amazing things happen. Things started to click. Like everything started to come together. And so it's a rediscovery. There are a lot of women out there who still feel overwhelmed and lost. They don't know what to do. They're totally lost. And they're looking for a path. Now, some of them may be working right now, but they still feel stuck. So I hired a 6-figure business life coach, and We worked together for 16 weeks, tireless nights. We were up late. And she rebranded me, and I have a new website, and I launched my Let's Break the Silence signature coaching program for domestic abuse survivors.
Amazing. Tell us more about that program.
Sure, sure. So I take women through a 9-week transformation. It's based on life experience. It's based on what I have learned and implemented. Okay. So I take them through a 9-week program. There's 9 modules. There's videos. There are, I talk about taking ownership. I talk about self-love. I talk about how I went from the depths of despair to freedom and liberation. There's workbooks. We focus on gratitude because when you wake up in the morning, I thank God every morning that I'm still alive. And I help them. I guide them through some meditations. I have a meditation there because meditation was hard for me in the beginning, to quiet my mind. So I take them through a 9-week transformation. And
Wow.
from the depths of despair to freedom and liberation. And I help them rediscover themselves and help them step into their true power and calling and their true purpose. So it is a 9-week, it's intensive. Um, I help them break through their self-limiting beliefs because unfortunately the abuser heaped a bunch of limiting beliefs on them. I mean, when they come into my program, they've basically been beaten down to the ground,
It's
but they're
very
looking
true.
for hope. They're looking for help.
Well, and there's an element of motivation to reclaim your life.
Mm,
You've given and lost so much of yourself over that time period, if it's years or even months for some people. It's a way to reclaim yourself and rebuild yourself and not just give up for the rest of your life because of how deep you are in that despair. So if they
right.
don't know where to start, it's overwhelming. All of a sudden, you are safe, you've got out, you're safer, but you still have those effects of that being beaten down, verbally, and it may include physical, emotionally, financially. And how do you reclaim that so that the rest of your life has all that abundance that you're talking about? So starting with you, if they aren't sure if your signature course is for them, they can book a time with you to, like, a
Sure.
discovery call, right?
Yes. Yes. So they can go to my website, which is letsbreakthesilence.com. And there is a book to call button on the right-hand corner. So all they have to do, and I actually recommend that. I actually recommend that they book a call with me so I can do a discovery. It's a 30-minute clarity call. So, I talk to them, I learn more about them and see if we're a good fit to work together.
Mm-hmm.
And for my coaching programs, I have a self-paced 9-week program, or they can do both. They can work with me one-on-one and do the self-paced. But if they just want to do the self-paced program, I have a special offer for them. Um, so they can, book a call with me, and then, we can work out payment plans, and there's all kinds of things that we can work on. So, because I know, in this economy now, there is a lot of fear out there. I just feel that there just the mental health state of people in general, like women and men. But I see more so for women. I feel bad for them in one way, but you know what? I had to rescue myself. I had to save myself. I can only do so much. I can give you the tools, for you to, um, you know, step into your own power and true calling. But the first thing that you need to do is You need to take ownership. And you just have to surrender your pride and ego and draw a line in the sand. And that's what I did. That's what
Yeah.
I did, because I am worthy. I am worthy. I feel worthy. And when you feel worthy, and I talk about self-love a lot, when you love yourself, you can love others. Now, the one thing that I do point out in my coaching program, that there are unfortunately a lot of women out there who are seeking another man, which is not going to work, because guess what? You need to heal first from those traumas. And some of them may go back to childhood. So I work with you on that. I work with them, one-on-one. So they could either do the self-paced by themselves, or if they want to hire me and, work with me one-on-one, they can do that too. So I have two options.
Well, I'm going to unpack this a little bit, because I think that is a very,
Mm,
very profound point that you made about jumping in and looking for someone to make you feel worthy or make you feel loved and accepted. And you're complicating things. You are bringing a wounded soul into that relationship, and a wounded heart, and somebody who doesn't even trust themselves and is reeling from the abuse that they have come from. So I think that was a very, very valid point to make, that, like kind of it's a warning to just pause, take a breath. There's lots of time for the right relationship. And you know that you will attract different people if you are coming into that arena again from a healed, strong, confident space where you've worked
exactly.
through what you've had. And to then the other point that I wanted to make is to have a coach who's been there
Mm,
is far more impactful and relevant to what you are healing from when you're dealing with someone who's been there, and they just get it. They get it right away.
exactly. Exactly. They have to heal themselves first. That's what I had to do. And I'm proud to say that I'm 14 years, I'm single. I'm still single.
And
I'm very
happy.
single. Single, happy, and fulfilled.
Yeah.
And I want to help others. I want to help other women feel the same way, because you don't need to jump into another. And actually, that's the wrong thing to do, because I'll tell you why. Because you haven't, like you pointed out, because you haven't healed, you're going to attract the wrong people, the
Mhm.
wrong men.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're gonna take advantage of you. Trust me, you can trust me with your life on this.
So
They're gonna take advantage of you, because you're
what
still broken inside and you need to heal first. So before you jump into another relationship that is not gonna fulfill you right away, I would suggest, highly recommend that you heal yourself and love yourself first. And I give you those tools. So
would you say that one of the first steps a person could take if they are just sitting, maybe they're curled up on the couch listening to this, or they're sitting in a spot that is deep in despair, one of the first steps that you took, is that something you would suggest they do, is share their story, whether they do it like you did live? It might not go viral. Maybe they're like, oh crap, I wouldn't want that to go viral, but they
right,
are brave enough to share with somebody either they can trust, or break that silence in some way and start, like you say, own what's happening, really, really admit that they need some support, or they need somebody to hear them and see them, and
mm,
and help them out. And whether it's the resources from government agencies, or their
mhm.
communities, or their friends and family, would you say that that's a good place to start?
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. They can share their story with a close friend to start. Little, I did that actually. I shared my story with friends and mentors, and then when I hired my mentor, and he finally said, "Go online and share your story." It's like, okay, I can do that. So I practice first. I
Mhm.
mean, we have a phone, we have a phone. So all I did was I'm not going to go live, but
Yep.
you hold
Just
the phone or you have a tripod, put it on the
mhm.
tripod, go on Facebook, click live and start talking. And it doesn't have to be an hour. It could be 15 minutes.
Or they could
My
even
live turned out to be a half hour. I just kept talking. I remember watching my live on YouTube, talking, like, Angie, be quiet. Right? But now I'm glad I did because it went viral. My
yeah.
story went viral on Facebook and it went viral on YouTube. So I have a YouTube channel, which is Let's Break the Silence with Angeline. So when people go to my website, when they go like to my podcast, you can find me on all social media platforms. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok now. So I'm on TikTok, which is not on my website. It's at break the silence _ Angeline. That's where you can find all my content. I have a podcast agency. They launch my podcast, new podcast episodes every Wednesday morning. So they're on my Facebook fan page, which is Let's Break the Silence. So everything is on my website. My Instagram is, I have two actually, Angeline _ Constantinu, and I think the other one is, hold on, let me pull it
So
up.
don't worry, everybody. All these links will be in the show notes so that you can find Angeline. You can hear more of her story, her encouragement, other women's stories. Now, I want to say you could also use your phone, video, even if you don't go live, video yourself telling the story. And if that feels safer, then I would say that's a really good place to start, or to journal it. I found that when I started writing out what I'd experienced, it really started to sink in what I was dealing with, what I had seen, what had been happening to me. And I've even had in the books that I've published, and I'm working on a compilation of stories of women who have been in abusive situations. And it's breaking that silence. It's giving them a way to share those stories, and also for the people who need to hear it, so they know they aren't alone and that we understand them. And this is why, because this is our stories. So I'm compiling all those stories. I'm publishing at least one book. Proceeds of that will all go towards organizations that support women. There's no cost to be involved. But I have had suggestions that in that book, I include a place for a couple of things. One is that people can start recording the incidents that are happening, because that has been a turning point for some of the people that have been in abuse. You tend to think, okay, you downplay, you move on, you're optimistic it won't happen again, or they're very apologetic, like you mentioned. And once they started recording those incidents and looked at the frequency and the severity of it, that is what their turning point was, when they said, oh my God, what am I living in? And the other thing was to offer a checklist of things that they might want to consider keeping at a friend's place, in a safe place, so that if they do have the opportunity to escape or get away, that the frame of mind they're in, they won't also have to try and remember what's important to take with them. So a bit of a checklist as well for them to do that. So writing those stories, sharing those stories, whether you do it on a video, go live, talk to a friend, write it out, that is such a great place to start, and just really acknowledge, through the shame, through the guilt, through the denial of what you're experiencing.
Exactly. And I keep a journal. So I teach in my course how to journal. That's actually, so the last year that I was with my ex, I documented everything. I journaled everything. My thoughts, my feelings, what was happening. It was part of the court case, which I didn't realize at the time. So I just, but I, documented my journey of this rediscovery. And when I presented it to the court, they were really impressed. They're like, oh my goodness. But I teach women how to journal. I didn't know how to journal, or I didn't know how to do gratitude journal. I teach them, like in the beginning, I will ask them, What are 3 things that you are grateful for? I started from 3. Now I write at least 15 in the morning.
Incredible.
Yeah, and I have different journals, so I use this journal too. See, have fun, innovate, encourage, be honest, inspire. I bought it at Target. So, and I also have a gratitude journal that is online, so they can purchase that online on my website. Gratitude journal. I have a couple of resources that they can, a couple of books that they can buy. One is the self-love, and the other one is how to heal from a verbally abusive relationship. So, yeah, so they're all resources.
That's incredible, Angeline. You have a very holistic outlook with this. You've really covered all the bases and you're helping them from all different angles. I think that's just marvelous. Would you like to share your screen for anyone who watches the video on YouTube or on our website, that they will then be able to recognize the website and your signature course that you offer?
Absolutely. Let me share my screen right now. And thank you for allowing me to share my screen.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We get to see all
Okay.
your new branding.
Yes, this is all my new branding, everyone. So this is, okay, so let's start with the home page. Let's go here first. So there's an introductory video about myself and the launch of my new coaching program. This is a bio of myself. And I want to help you regain your empowerment and equip you with tools to heal and receive goodness and love in your life. So I talk about the Millionaire Mentorship Group that I joined. I have 3 different levels of my program. The first one is the 3-month, which is the rediscover yourself. And then if people decide they want to work with me for 6 months, we can, this is the 6-month program, which is the next step in their self-discovery process. And then here is my 12-month program. Okay. And these are some tests. I have more testimonials. So, and also people right here on the first page, they want to continue to receive resources that will equip and empower you on your healing journey. So they can sign up for my email.
Fantastic.
So they can stay in touch, because I do have an email list, and so people can subscribe. They can stay in touch with me, because I launch a project broadcast every Friday morning. So and I also launch my new podcast episodes on Wednesdays. So they're not going to be flooded with emails. So there's going to be announcements of live events. And here is the about page, my story from victim to victor. So
Fantastic.
I share my story, right? And they can join my Facebook group, which is right here. So all they do is click on that link, and that will take them to my Facebook group. And these are the books and journals that I was referencing. So the verbally abusive relationship, these are resources. So they can buy the book through Amazon. They just click on this link right here. The 5 love languages, which I talk about, and the gratitude journal right here.
That's really helpful to have those resources there for them, Angeline.
Exactly. So Anchor FM. Okay, so this is my link that takes them to my podcast, which is Let's Break the Silence with Angeline, my YouTube channel, which is Let's Break the Silence with Angeline, my Facebook fan page, and my Instagram, which is Let's_break the silence. And then the podcast, so this is my podcast right here. So if you're a woman who is afraid to speak out and share your story about domestic abuse, then this podcast is for you. So in each episode, I share my personal journey about surviving domestic violence and the steps I took to transform myself from victim to victor to a full-time successful entrepreneur. And I also share real life stories. So they could click here. And I'm on, by the way, Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, and all the live streams.
Perfect.
And this is my Let's Break the Silence signature program.
They can even find me on your podcast there from back in December.
Yes. it's last year's. I really enjoyed that interview with you, Deena. Yeah,
Likewise.
yeah, definitely. Um,
And here's your
so
signature program.
right here, it's right here. See? Are you ready to write there's a journal. Are you ready to write your next chapter that is full of love, confidence, and clarity? So set yourself free from the myth that you have to feel ashamed of sharing your story after surviving domestic abuse. So it's time to amplify your voice and receive the goodness that you deserve. So they can click on this link, and this is my signature program. You see this?
Lovely.
So yeah, yeah. If I didn't hire a business life coach, Deena, it would have taken me 1 year to do this. I'm not kidding. That's why I outsource. Okay. So inside, you'll be taken through my signature 9-step process designed to help you release and heal past wounds that have left you feeling overwhelmed, inferior, and lost. And you will learn how to rediscover yourself and be empowered as you step into your divine power and identity that will lead you to your true purpose and calling in life that God has calling you towards. I'm ready to grow. So I know this for myself. I was craving liberation. So this is important, okay? But there is a problem with sharing your story and taking a step into a new future sounds amazing, but there's a problem. You still feel overwhelmed, confused, and unworthy of that new future. So maybe you feel like no one will take you seriously. Maybe you're feeling like your voice really doesn't matter, which does matter, by the way. Maybe you're feeling like you're not worthy of a better tomorrow. Maybe you're feeling guilty or ashamed for allowing yourself to be abused. Maybe you're afraid of making the same mistakes again and can't trust yourself. So, if you're ready for freedom, I would strongly encourage you to claim your freedom. Okay? Because I want to help you step into the calling God has placed into your heart. And here is my bio. So, I help women like you regain your peace, confidence, and voice. You weren't created to live a life of fear and anxiety. You were created for peace, joy, and love. You were created to operate from a place of liberation, independence, and freedom. So I am on a mission to empower you to step into your own power and identify your true purpose and calling in life.
I love that.
Yeah, so this is all 100%. So how would it feel if you were able to regain your power and move into ownership of your life? Break free from those self-limiting beliefs that hold you back. Rediscover yourself and feel empowered. Step into your divine authority and identify your true purpose and calling in life. So these are my clients with whom I've worked with. And the answer is simple. You partner with God in your healing journey. And I go into this, see, and this is what I was talking about earlier. Unfortunately, a lot of women who have been emotionally and physically abused seek fulfillment and their worth in things that always leave them lacking and questioning their next steps. So I was touching on that earlier. So there is a better way. Here's my bio of me. And this is what you're going to learn. You're going to learn mindset. Mindset tools to help you uncover and release wounds and beliefs that are no longer serving you. You're going to learn how to reduce anxiety and stress through different techniques and coping strategies. You will be given resources to help you reconnect with your passions in life and find your inner joy again. And you will be given space to heal with a true healer and align with your true divine identity and authority through Jesus Christ. And here you go.
And there's the
So
course.
one customize, that's it. That's
Now,
it.
one question that comes to mind, because my audience, obviously it's Divorce Magazine Canada, they can work with you. It doesn't matter where they are in the world, right? This is all
Right,
online.
correct. This is global, global.
Incredible.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, yes. They can work with me.
This has been just amazing to have you join me from New York
I
and
know.
share your story and what you have done from coming from such a deep place of despair. And you're really inspiring. You're an example of what is possible for anyone. As as a last, do you have any last thoughts or anything that you would like to share with the audience?
Yes, actually, I would like to share something. I know that people are searching for hope, they're looking for hope, especially in these challenging times that we're living in. So, my recommendation is, I mean, first of all, if you would like to connect with me, that would be great. But my message is to never lose hope.
It's
Never
beautiful.
lose hope. Okay. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And I could have lost hope. I could have just stayed in that victim mindset, moved back in with my parents, which I didn't want to do. But you know what I mean.
Yes.
Just there, you have that inner fire and passion within you. You just have to discover it. It's there. God called you to live a life filled with abundance and love, not this life that is toxic love. Who wants that? Who wants that?
And we get caught in that toxic love against ourselves too. That's what that guilt and
That's
shame
true.
is. So never give up hope, never give up. That's been my message too. Don't give up. You aren't alone. Don't give up. And I like that, the hope part too. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Angeline, for sharing
Oh,
that.
you're welcome,
It's very
Deena. Thank you so
encouraging.
much. Never lose hope. Never lose hope. I mean, be the beacon of light in someone's darkness. And there is not a day that goes by that people tell me that people will tell me that. I mean, they've shared my posts too. Just you don't have to be in that victim mindset, and it's up to you. I can't save you. You have to save yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that for myself. When I reached rock bottom, that was it.
Well, and if we get stuck in that rock bottom because we think it's not
Mm,
worth fighting, you're so beaten down,
mm,
but it's really owning that you are worth it, owning that it wasn't your fault. By owning it, we mean, recognize what you had experienced and that there's hope for it to get better and not to give up on
right.
yourself. Like, admit that you are worthy of better, of more. And so what? So you're here. The past you can't change, but the future, yes, there's hope there.
There's a lot of hope there.
Fantastic. What a good note to wrap up on.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for being a guest today and bringing your encouragement and inspiration to everyone. And I look forward to having you again sometime, Angeline.
Yes, I will definitely bring you back on my podcast.
I welcome that.
Oh,
I
yes.
yes, I so enjoyed just exploring where we've been and how we
Yeah,
can help others.
exactly.
Fantastic.
Thank you so
We will
much.
meet
Thank
again.
you. We will meet again soon. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for having me on your podcast show.
My pleasure. Hopefully you heard something today that helps you wherever you might be in life. Do you have questions or suggestions for a topic you want to know more about? Let me know. Check the show notes for all the contact information. Follow this podcast and find us on social. Know anyone who might find this information helpful? Be a friend and share it. And hey, thank you for hanging out with me today. Keep smiling that beautiful smile. The world needs your sunshine. It means a lot that you spend this time with us and meet our experts and professionals who can help you through divorce or separation. Please refer to our terms of service available on our website, divorcemagazinecanada.com/terms of service. The link is in the show notes. And the legal language, our disclaimer: Divorce Magazine Canada website, events, resource groups, blog, and all content, including our podcast, is intended to educate and provide quality, credible resource information. The contents should not be used as factual until consultation with the appropriate professionals for any guidance. Divorce Magazine Canada does not constitute endorsements for, nor liability for any claims made in the presenting of this information.